We can start, Fatu. Thank you.
Thank you, Liana. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Tools and Techniques on the 26th of March, Thursday. Tonight, we've got an honorable guest who is no stranger to public speaking. His name is Bonny Matlala. And Bonny Matlala is a known executive communication strategist. He's also a keynote speaker. He does corporate training as well. He is a business analyst as well. He has worked in all the big four banks. In his experience, he's got an LLB degree from UNISA. He's got a postgraduate certificate in business analysis from Rhodes Business School. He's also an author. In fact, he's got a book on that guides you to preparing and presenting memorable speeches. This was published in 2024. He also has his own series called Start Now that is aimed at assisting and coaching around communication and corporate speaking. Bonny is a former Toastmaster area director and club president for the Soweto Positive Speakers. And that is who our speaker is today. And in terms of before he starts, we do have our typical house rules. One, you always going to be on mute unless if we invite you to speak or ask a question. No video except for the speaker. The session is going to be 45 minutes, so our speaker will speak for 45 minutes, and then we will have a section for question and answers in the last 15 minutes of this hour. So the questions you welcome, you use the chat, post them in the chat in there. And then during our Q&A section towards the end, in the last 15 minutes, we will read each of your questions. You're more than welcome to drop as many as you like questions as the speaker is speaking. All of them, then our team will read them out to the speaker, then he will respond to the questions. These sessions are all recorded, so we do upload them into the IIBA SA chapter YouTube channel, but the slides, however, we do not distribute. And to stay connected with us, you'll find us, you can sign up for membership in our IIBA website. And also there's an event list there where you can see all our upcoming events, virtual events, in-person events. Then you can also find us in social handles. You can see there's LinkedIn there, Facebook, but there's also Instagram where also we have a presence there. And if you want to be a speaker and you feel you could present in our tools and techniques or any other event, you're more than welcome to contact us on our email down there, which is professionaldevelopment@southafrica.iiba.org. Thank you so much. And I will be handing over now to our prestigious speaker, Mr. Matlala. Please say, do the honors.
Thank you, Fathuani, and thank you to the team. Just want to confirm you can see my slides, and you can see me. Confirmed?
Yes, everything perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I am excited to be speaking here today at the International Institute of Business Analysis because I've been a business analyst for over 10 years now. My talk today will focus on beyond requirements, how great business analysts communicate. Now, there's a lot of information around training in terms of technical training. You go around, you find training on how to write use cases, methodologies such as agile and safe and all other methodologies that are out there. And a business analyst has enough information or training as far as technical aspects of the craft is concerned. But what I've picked up over the years is that there's this gap in communication. When you look at a business analyst, and for the purpose of this talk, I'm more focused on a business analyst that bridges this gap between the business and IT stakeholders, writing requirements, and of course, also, as well as a system analyst. What you see is that about 30, or some can even argue that at least 35% of a business analyst time is spent actually communicating, managing stakeholders. For example, you are given a assignment. We want to enable or create a feature within our banking app to enable application for a home loan. Now, to fulfill or elicit all these requirements that you need and complete your BRD, you need to speak. Among those you need to speak with will be your legal and compliance team that will give you all the feedback as far as the legal and compliance is concerned. You need to speak to the learning and development team so that when the feature goes live and you are able to apply for a home loan on the banking app, should there be issues and the user want to call someone and speak to someone and say what's happening, someone must be trained. Our marketing colleagues must be able to tell the world that, hey, we've got this new feature that is coming up. And as a business analyst, you're given this requirement. And this is just a tip of the iceberg as far as colleagues you need to interact with. The reality of it is that as much as you've got all the technical aspects of the job or skills, you can write the use cases, you can write the user stories, you have to deal with the politics, you have to deal with different characters. For example, when the decision was made to go with this project, some of the stakeholders, senior stakeholders, might have not been happy about this, and maybe there was no unanimous agreement. And then you find yourself now having to pull this project forward. But you find yourself dealing with politics because people are trying to sabotage the project because they were not happy with how this was signed off. So as a BA or business analyst, rather, you're going to have to deal with a lot of communication situations, managing different stakeholders. And I've got the feeling that we don't really delve enough into this topic. So today I want to speak on this subject, and I've got the three subtopics that I'll be looking at. The first one is the power of preparation. Organizing a speech is the second one. And lastly, delivering the speech, how to say it. And I'll share the final tips towards the end and takeaways that you can apply as of tomorrow and going forward in your workspaces. Let's get into it. I want you to take a look at this slide. And in the comment, I'm going to ask Liana to just read out the comments when I ask her to do so. On the slide, you look at the slide, you see a team called Magesi versus Mamelodi Sundowns. The score is 2. I hope you are writing. Just have a look and just write whatever that comes to your mind when you see this slide. What does it say to you? Mamelodi Sundowns beaten 2-1. A big team in European League called Manchester City versus Tottenham, beaten 4-0. As a very great athlete by the name of Noah Lyles, a sprinter, holds the record for 200 meters. I just want to see or hear what comes to your mind when you see this slide. I'm hoping you are typing. I hope you are typing, and I'm going to tell you what comes to my mind. I'm going to give you just a few seconds, and I'm going to ask Liana to tell me what you are saying on the comment. Time is running out. After I take the sip, we are moving. Liana, any comments? 2 or 3 comments? Are they coming in?
No, these people don't know what to say. I'm trying to decide if it's the team I like that's that's winning or not, or if I know the team. Mahasi, I don't know. We've got one answer. Champions do lose.
Oh, nice
There's
one.
one
Nice one.
comment.
I
Sports
like that.
stats.
Sports
Sports stats. Statistics.
statistics.
Teams
Okay.
less expected to win, giving the big boys a whipping. Looks like it's soccer data. Okay, there's your answers.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to tell you what this tells me. What this tells me, it tells me that when the coaches of these teams, including the gentlemen, were asked the question, what happened? Everybody was expecting you to win. And their response was simple. We did not do what we expected to do. We took things for granted. We undermined the opponent. We thought we were going to win because we always win. And the common thing that was said is back to the drawing board. I think, colleagues, what then becomes important here is that no matter how good you are, no matter how skilled you are, no matter how experienced you are, if you do not take enough time to prepare, you risk the chance of losing. More important, if you manage to wing it, you will never function at your best capacity if you undermine preparation. And in this, as a start, I want to say to deal with preparation. How do we prepare? Because we're going to give countless presentations. Over 10 years, I've given over 100 or plus 200 presentations and managed over 200 meetings. But the most important thing is then how do we prepare? And this is what I want to deal with, because no matter how skilled you are, this is data that shows that even champions lose when they fail to take important things, when they take important things for granted. So this is almost like a simple thing, but that makes all the big difference, because you've got all the technical skills, but if you are not preparing enough, you will get exposed. It has happened to the world class, to the best of the best in the world. So let's get into it. Preparation. There's a popular saying that says, know your why. As a business analyst, you're going to have to do a lot of presentations and communication. The biggest question that you need to ask yourself is, why are you communicating? You need to know who your audience is. Understand what is their goal. Are they troubled by a painful process that they are going through when they're assisting their customers? What are they going through? And why are you communicating with them? Why are you running these sessions? Why are you facilitating? Once that is out of the way, things becomes a little bit easier. Of course, we've got status updates where we are giving status updates. For example, your stand up, where you say what I did yesterday, what I'm doing today, moving tickets. But more important, colleagues and guests that are here with us today, is this part that I want to touch on. We as business analysts, we are actually selling our ideas, or we are persuading people to buy into an idea. When I started, I said that sometimes, or most of the times, people don't really agree with the project that is being rolled out. We find that people are not engaged. Sometimes people don't even think that you as a business analyst are important. They even question your importance. So in these meetings, it's your job to persuade them to buy into your idea. And you are left with this big task to persuade them to say, guys, come with us. We need each and every one of you to make this thing a success. So speaking, therefore, to me becomes like taking an Uber ride. Nobody takes an Uber ride because you just want to take a ride and just sit in the car and get to a destination and come back. No, you are taking a ride because you want to get to a certain destination. So as much as you are doing this sessions, you are doing them because there's a pain in the business that someone came to you as a trusted advisor to say, we want to be able to open accounts on the app or on the ATM. So you are being called to resolve a problem. And as you get into this session, understand that someone trusted you with this problem. Your stakeholders, some of the stakeholders might not believe that is a valid problem, but you have to sell the idea to your audience. Now, in preparation, because we've got this so many stakeholders that we are responsible to drive forward and move forward, we need to understand who they are. When I applied for a job sometime back, actually, the consultant who was assisting me said to me, "Hey, Bonnie, you need to go and look at these guys." And he gave me their names on their names and said, "Go check them on LinkedIn and Facebook." And I really felt that was creepy. But after much persuasion, I did that. And in the interview, one of the people who were interviewing me is a golfer. And I was asked a question, and I was able to create an analogy around golf and linking it on how to deal with requirements. And I could see the impact what that impact had on that stakeholder. So as business analysts, when we get into those rooms, we need to have that edge. We need to sharpen our public speaking, or rather our communication, so that we can really cut through our stakeholders, so that we can win them over. Because you'll remember that we've got tight deadlines, and when the project is not moving, hey, who's not moving the project is the BA. So we need to understand who they are. What is their religion? For example, if you know someone's religion, you might be able to say, happy Passover. And people get to see that you see them beyond their profession, you see them beyond what they do every day. And as a business analyst, you need to really win those people over. And if you understand them, the better for you. And more important, you need to understand what is their level of education. Sometimes we are called upon to go to the branch or to go to the users who might not have sometimes high levels of education, to speak with them, see how the process unfolds. I always tell people when I teach presentation that if I was called upon to speak to children at crèche who are of the ages of 4 to 6 about the benefits of eating spinach, I wouldn't now talk about the zinc and vitamins in the spinach. No, I'll speak about Popeye spinach, or well, now I'm giving my age. I'll speak about cocoa melon, maybe sing that song, I love to eat, 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 and show them that when you eat spinach, you become strong. And these things look like things that are used in public speaking spaces, but they're actually not. They're tools that we can actually use in eliciting requirements, because you need to make sure that you get to the level of the person so that you can get the best out of the person in terms of getting, whether it's activities of a process or specific requirements on the as is or what the customer wants. So then you'll need to know then how, as I've elaborated, how junior or how senior a person is, and that will lead how you're going to give your presentation. Same topic, the benefits of eating spinach. I'm talking at a university level. I'm talking to biologists, doctors, and people that are informed within the space. Of course, I'll speak about the vitamins. I'll refer to researchers. I'll have more depth. And the same applies for us as we prepare for these meetings. It's important for us to know who are these people, what drives them, our stakeholders. So with that being said, I'm now moving to the last point within this slide. So it's like problem solving. Preparation helps you understand your audience. I want to give some practical guidelines in understanding your audience. When you try to understand your audience, you need to understand the culture. In my culture, I'm from Limpopo, and that's where my parents come from, and I grew up there. And in our village, gestures have different meaning. For example, I cannot look into my father's eyes when I speak with him, because that will be interpreted as saying I'm equal to him or I'm disrespectful. But if I speak to someone maybe who's white, as an example, looking into their eyes might be the sign that I'm paying attention, I'm engaged. And as a business analyst, you have to go further than just speaking. You have to understand who you're talking to, because sometimes we lose our audience within these cultural differences. And if we want to distinguish ourselves, we have to go take it a little bit a notch higher in terms of our speaking, our communication, and understanding who we are talking to. Gender, gender always affect how things are interpreted. Different male and female, or different genders as we know them today, uh, people of different genders interpret things differently. So as a business analyst, you're trying to drive a message, you're trying to get something from different stakeholders. Understanding how these people operate, their makeup, their culture, and investing even further really helps you to break the barrier and really become a trusted advisor. Because colleagues and guests, what we want to become is actually trusted advisors. And lastly, look the part. If in my village, if you're going to address men who are married and without a jacket, no matter how good your point is, they're not going to take it or even give you an opportunity to speak. So understand, some people feel that when you are maybe slightly dressed up, you have respected the occasion. And I want to challenge you and encourage you to do that if needs be. On this part, lastly, there are moments where you're not going to be prepared. For example, you walk into a town hall, you are exhausted, you are hoping to scroll on TikTok while executives are speaking. Your manager has asked a question. Oh, Mr. So and so, I know your team is looking at an AI project. How far are you with it? Do you want to say something about it? Your manager realizes, oh God, I'm not prepared for this because I'm managing 20 other people working on 50 other projects. And he looks at you and say, Fatwan is here. Can you please say something? At that moment, you are shaking in your boots. What can you do? I will suggest, because those moments will come, anticipate that you might be required to speak, smile, and walk slowly to the podium. Why do we walk slowly when we are not prepared? Walking slowly allows you to collect your thoughts. Imagine you are not prepared to speak, you are in that auditorium or that town hall session, and you rush to the podium. You won't have enough time to collect your thoughts. Now, the formula. There's a public speaking formula that I believe we all know. We have seen this in writing of essays, opening, body, and conclusion. I want us to look at this and see how we can incorporate it into our daily activities as business analysts. In this part, I want us to look at how can we craft great openings or introduction, and looking at understanding what goes into the body of the speech or presentation, and lastly, how to conclude, not just conclude, but in a remarkable way. What is said, colleagues, guests, is that people give you 60 seconds to decide whether you're worth listening to. Now, imagine you're a BA, you have called people to say, there's a problem that I'm solving here. They give you 60 seconds to make up their mind if you're worth listening to. Why is that the case? Within people's minds, there are things happening. For now, we know that there's war in the Middle East. There's talk of shortage of petrol. If petrol becomes expensive, everything becomes expensive. They might be thinking of their naughty child, an argument with a spouse. So a strong opening will help you capture the audience. As you unpack the problem that you're solving, try to have a sentence or two sentences that will really become commanding in terms of why this meeting is important and why you're trying to achieve something. What are you trying to achieve with the meeting that you have set up? If you have any ideas, you can write on how you can you can open your speech or your meeting or your presentation if you're presenting requirements. And after some time, I'm going to ask Liana to read out one or two, but I'm going to move to one of the three examples of how you can do that. The first one is an alarming statistic or question or effect. Imagine if I open my talk by saying to you, did you know that according to Statistics SA, in the first quarter of 2022, the population of South Africa is 60.6 million, and 34% of these people are unemployed. Today, I am going to share ideas on what the country can do to reduce unemployment. Why is this opening great? It has mentioned a credible source, mentioned a problem, and we are convinced this is a problem. and does not only stop there, but says, I am going to give a solution in terms of how to solve this problem. Another example is a thought-provoking question or statement. Who among you does not suffer from procrastination? Now, this is an example of a provoking question. I know that everyone suffers from procrastination from this people in this on this call. Now, imagine asking that question: Who among you does not suffer from procrastination? And following it up with a statement that says, "Imagine how things might be different if you did not put off anything you wanted to do." The last one, story like opening. This is my favorite, and this is because everybody loves to hear a good story. All of us here, if you ask a question, what is the movie that you enjoyed? Everyone will have something to say. Does not matter whether you're an executive, you're a cleaner, you are educated or uneducated. Everybody just loves to hear a story. So as you present your requirements, if you're able to package them in a story-like format, that can go a long way. An example of a great speech opening was that I enjoyed from Steve Jobs. He was speaking at Stanford University, and he said, "Today, I want to tell you 3 stories." That's it. No big deal, just 3 stories. For me, this is quite fascinating because he makes a promise what he's going to do. He's going to tell you 3 stories, and that's all. Now, I'm not going to dwell too much on this one. This is the core of the speech. This speaks to actually delivering the speech. The speech can be organized in chronological manner. That means by time. And I always encourage people when they do a walkthrough of the requirement to organize requirements in a chronological manner. For example, requirement on opening a bank account, enabling an opening of a bank account, maybe on the app. You might want to speak about the requirement in terms of you must be 18 years or older first, must you have an ID, your passport, proof of address, and then get into the qualification. Must you have specific earning for this account that you want to open, and the list goes on and on. Lastly, the conclusion. Imagine that you are reading a great novel. You are enjoying this novel, but the writer decided to stop halfway. How will you feel about this author? Or you've been in a plane. You know that the pilot will not just land the plane. They will tell you we are preparing to land. Therefore, this shows that whenever we are concluding our talk or our requirements or whatever presentation we are doing, we must conclude in a very skillful way that leaves no question. A German psychologist said that people recall when you've got a grocery list, the first item on the list is the one with the high recall rate, and the last item on the list is those 2 items are the ones that have high recall rate. So hence it's important that when you begin the first 60 seconds, capture your audience. Uh, the last part of it, make sure that you conclude. And let's look at how you can conclude. I started my talk today by saying to you that there's a lot of training on technical skills for BAs, but I feel that there's a shortage in terms of helping BAs navigate personalities, politics of the day, and how to deliver great presentations as they present requirements, run elicitation sessions with stakeholders. Let's look at how you can conclude. For our in a workspace, one of the greatest is to conclude with a summary of key points. Preachers love this one. They call people to action. They'll preach and tell you, hey, what if you die today? What if you're hit by a bus? Please come forward today and do this, and therefore you'll be saved from eternal condemnation. Lastly, thought-provoking question. You can ask a thought-provoking question. Are we going to allow things to remain as they are, or are we going to stand up and be counted? And you can leave it at that with a food for thought kind of a conclusion. Steve Jobs talking at Stanford University, for that after that introduction, he closed his speech by telling his audience, stay hungry, stay foolish. And yeah, this one really, I enjoyed this one. He was essentially saying to them, you are graduates, but never think you know it all. Continue to search for information. Otherwise, whatever you have known will become obsolete and become not so useful. Now, lastly, delivering the speech. How do you deliver the speech? There's a lot of things that you can look at. Pitch variation. How many of you on this call have listened to yourself speak on Teams, trying to take minutes? I know we use transcripts now. Sometimes I listen to myself and I feel that I was not really commanding. As a BA driving the project, I could have sounded much more enthusiastic. I could have sounded much more sure of myself. So pitch variation, sometimes we get to see that. I encourage you to listen to yourselves, because when you listen to yourself, you're most of the time listening to the audio, so you can actually get to tell how your pitch variation was. Have you ever made a conclusion about a person's um, personality based on their body language? Well, I have. Now, as I wrap up talking about how to deliver the message, people look at our body language because action speaks louder than words. No matter what you say, it's actually how you say it that matters. So be careful of your body language. I mean, if you're walking in town and someone gives you a bad look, your reaction might be to return the favor and look at him in a distasteful manner. If you're feeling scared, you'll run away, right? So body language is that type of communication which entails in which behaviors as opposed to words are used to express or convey information. Such behaviors will include facial expressions, body languages, body posture, and eye movement. So it means that your body speaks, and that's what we tend to forget as analysts and professionals. Our body speaks as we present what our hands are doing, our movements. I always say to people, move with purpose. If you're making a movement, connect it to your message. If you're pointing at something, make a point, return your hands to a certain place, make another point, and that really distinguish you from other professionals and BAs. Culture then influences meaning. As I've said, that body language is interpreted differently. So be aware of your body language, what it means to whoever you are addressing in the room, because yours is to make sure that you drive the requirements and you make sure that you get everything you want from the stakeholders, and your presentations are really impactful. How many of you guys, if I can ask, how many of you guys have had your mother or father give you a look and you knew exactly what they wanted to say to you? Right? I know it's many of us. And you know, when your mother gives you this look, you know it's time for you to behave. So even when we give our presentations, people are looking at our bodies are speaking, whether we know it or not. Our hands, if your hands are in your pocket, if you're fiddling with something unintentional, everything that you're doing is really communicating. So you need to be aware of your body language and how you say it. Some of the things that we can look at is pauses. Pauses must be used skillful, right? I know I'm talking fast because of time today. Pauses must be used skillfully. For example, if I was telling you about a situation that involves death of my brother or sister, and I said to you, it was on the 15th and my brother died, it really loses the essence. But if I say to you, it was on the 15th, I was on my way from work and I received a call that sadly my brother had passed away. I'm really allowing you to take in, right? I'm allowing you to take in what I'm saying. And that way it allows you to really be in sync with what I'm saying to you. So in that way, if we really learn how to use pauses, our presentations will be better. You can pause especially on a point that is important, right? Imagine if I was a comedian sharing jokes, and after sharing jokes, you try to laugh. While you are laughing, I'm saying a joke and saying another joke, and you don't really get time to, I must allow you to laugh and, move to a next joke. So pace becomes then critical as you speak. One of the things you can do to really practice this, because this is really a lifelong journey of learning, I will suggest that you ask a member of your audience to listen to your speech delivery and give you feedback. Right? I asked my friend to listen in today and just give me feedback today how I did. So getting feedback is really, we say feedback is a breakfast for champions. So embrace feedback, record your speech and listen to it on Zoom or Teams. It will tell you how you did in terms of pitch, pace, your body language, how you really came up, and then you can assess. So as I wrap up, how to say it, there are a lot of things that can help you as a business analyst. Among those will be building better vocabulary in terms of your vocabulary, the words that you use. Of course, another thing that to look at is pronunciation. Sometimes if English is not really your first language, is your fifth language, you tend to butcher certain words. And when you listen to recording, you're like, hey, did I really say that? But the nice thing is that there's no master of pronunciation. So we are always have an opportunity to learn. So yeah, those are the suggestions that I have for you in terms of that. I spoke about vocal variety in terms of storytelling. We know that when we're listening to stories as kids, we will really hear people changing their voices. Sometimes it helps as you try to package your talk or your presentation as a story, like to use different voices. For example, if you want to say Bonnie said this, or Lerato said this, you can change your voice to make it sound like a female voice that amplifies your story. So I'm going to jump to the end because I'm just concerned about time. Yeah. So just know your material, make sure that you are prepared and just be over prepared. That is really what is going to help you as a speaker. So final tips before I take questions, and something that you can take home. Consistent rehearsal is really your key. You cannot get it right all the time or the first time. One of the ways, as I've said, record yourself, listen to yourself, aim to sound better the next time as you listen to this recording. Ask yourself, can I say this better? Can I show up better? Strengthen your familiarity with the topic. I remember here when I was still starting out, I wrote a beautiful BRS and I was excited. I went on a weekend and I came back and people read my document and they said, hey, let's go to page 15. This is what you said. I almost said, did I really say that? Because I had not really prepared. So make sure that you strengthen your familiarity with the topic. Um, check your pace, your pacing, and your timing. So with that, I will pause here and take questions from the forum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matlala, sir, for such a detailed presentation. we'll hand over to the team to then read out the questions that are on the chat, and we'll also encourage the rest of the attendees, if you have further questions. We've got about, I think, Bonnie was graceful enough to give us 2 minutes on top of the 15 minutes, so we have about 17 minutes. So you can add more questions there, and the team will read them out, and Bonnie will directly respond to them. So, Obi, over to you, sir.
Cool. Let me just check questions.
Would you like me to read it for you? I've got
Yes,
some comments and I've got questions. So a comment was Scott said, ask a question to get the audience engaged. I think you also mentioned that with the different techniques to get their attention. Well, okay. I always try and keep in the back of my mind, communication is the most important soft skill. A comment meaning the conclusion, comment question meaning the conclusion must trigger a recall of all the middle parts that the audience might have potentially forgotten during the presentation. Comment from you, Bonnie?
Yeah, so that, say again, please.
The conclusion must trigger a recall of all the middle parts to make sure that the audience do not forget the whole presentation.
It makes sense. And that is quite important, because what you want to do, you want to, at the end of the meeting, you want to summarize the key points, because a lot of things get said in the meeting, but you really want to say, these are the key points from this meeting. And a summary really refreshes the audience about the most important points that they need to be aware of and really think of after the meeting. So it's quite a great point, that one.
Question, what about imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome in communication. It's a good, this really happens to most of us, especially if you're consulting and a contract ends and you go into a different space where you're out of your depth in terms of domain knowledge. And I always feel that when I present and I listen to myself on the recording, I'm like, geez, I'm supposed to be a BA. How can I sound like that? I must be convincing. I'm the one running this meeting. When you listen to this, to the recording, I want you to feel like, who's this guy? This guy is so cool. But it happens. Sometimes you lack confidence, because you can be a great speaker, but you might lack confidence because you really don't have enough domain knowledge. You feel that there's knowledge gaps. But I always say, feeling the imposter syndrome sometimes can be the advantage, because it will force you to dig deep. It will force you to be over prepared. And by so doing, you really are learning. Actually, people who get to learn more are people who think they don't know. Those who know actually don't really get to learn much, because they're arrogant. They're too arrogant to learn because they believe they know. So one should feel like an imposter every 3 years at least, or 2 years minimum, because that means you are being stretched. And when you are being stretched, that's how you're going to feel. You're going to feel like, am I really a right fit? And just put on the work and keep improving. You're on mute, Liana.
Oops.
Oh, yes, now you're back.
Yeah, comment. We don't like the sound of our own voices. Okay, question. What about those who are naturally introverted and super laid back, as they may come across as disengaged, but actually are not? Don't we risk misjudging their character based on their poise or their body language?
Yeah. So it depends on which side you are based on that question. If you're a BA, you are laid back. Of course, you might have to run meetings. But if you are dealing with a stakeholder, that is quite laid back. I have seen actually most of the time that you find people who are very knowledgeable, but really they get suppressed because there are people who can really say a lot, but not really say anything. As a BA, I always try to look at those on that are quiet and say, Liana, I'd like to hear what you think about this, and you'll be surprised what you can get from that person. So if the person is a stakeholder, I'll definitely try to identify him that he's been quiet or she's been quiet, and call him or her to say, I want to hear your view. What do you think? That really helps from that angle. So I'm not sure if the question was from a BA or from stakeholders that are quiet and look like they're disengaged during the session or the meeting.
Next question. What about written communication, such as email or documentation? Can these principles be tailored to improve written communication?
I'll say yes. Written communication, um, even though I normally prefer to go to people because I know people sometimes. If I say, Liana, I mean that's not fair. We can't do that in 2 months, and you read that, you're like, yo, what is this guy even saying? Is he saying that to me? But if I come to you and say, no, it's unfair because there's this project and this project, and really we are really strained, you are able to really see the point. So I will say, if you sometimes if you can have a chat with a person, do that. But in terms of written communication, try to be, expand on what you mean, because saying to someone it's unfair and it cannot be done can really come across as saying that you really don't want to assist. But expanding on why it cannot be done, where the constraints are, the bottleneck, really helps the person on the other side to understand. So my tip will be to say, if I was receiving this and reading this, how will I interpret it? And I always think of it that way.
You've just used the word why twice. And why did I notice that? I saw an article this week on LinkedIn where somebody said, stop asking why, reframe it. Any thoughts on that? Because I always say, ask the why. But the person said, don't say why, rather say, how do you feel about it? Or my words now, I can't think of exactly what was said, in what context, but don't use the word why. That was quite interesting that when I noticed that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Uh, I will assume, 'cause I don't know the context, but I'll assume if you had to get your point across, sometimes you want to say how you're feeling. And I'm assuming that within that context, explaining why might be trying to dilute your point so that the next person understand. Whereas if you say how you feel without explaining, trying to explain why you're feeling like that, as if you're going to justifying your feelings. Um, I'm assuming from that angle, it might be great maybe to say how you feel without having to give justification for it. Because once you get into the why and all of those things, then you're no longer talking about your feeling. You want people to understand as opposed to them hearing what you're actually feeling. Without context, yeah, I'm assuming that's the best way I
Yeah,
can answer.
I should have said it was actually that the article was, don't ask all the time why to the stakeholders. It was actually a BA that wrote it. And why I noticed it is I've been reading a book on strategies. And this gentleman says you need to ask why 5 times. Here comes the total opposite that says stop asking why. Anyway, how often do you rehearse when preparing for presentations?
Sure. Um, yeah. Let me. Can I just say something on the why question? I just feel tempted to say something. I'll try to make it brief. I was working at my parents' home, and my nephew noticed that I'm always working. And he asked me a question. He's quite young. He was around 8 years old, and he asked me, "When am I buying?" I think he said a Lamborghini. So he was assuming because I work for a bank, I can get some money and buy things from the bank. Maybe there's money lying around. And I said to her, to him, I said, I was just honest. I was said to him, no, I don't earn enough money to buy that. Then he said, why? I said, it's because I'm an employee and I earn a certain amount of money. Then he said, what can you do? I said, oh, who drives that car? I said, it's entrepreneurs. Then he asked me, why don't you become an entrepreneur? Because you love the car and you know what to do. Why are you not doing it? And it really left me thinking. And I looked at him. I wanted to lie and say something, but I said to him, I decided I'm going to engage this 8-year-old. I said, I don't have the I don't have the courage. I'm scared to be an entrepreneur. I want the car, but I'm scared. And he asked me why. Why are those guys not scared? And when you really ask why, you really get to understand when you ask it honestly. Because I was left with the feeling that why actually. I even had to ask myself after us answering the question, why am I not going into entrepreneurship if maybe I love a certain thing? And that is really, sorry, the power of why. I know you're asking me a question. So I wanted to show actually how far a why, simple why can really force you to respect. Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay. I can't remember if I actually typed something along these lines, but anyway, do you have any strategies to remove the feeling of being nervous before talking in front of a group? I don't know if I actually typed it or just thought it. Stand behind the podium so that they can't see your knees knocking. So no, but seriously, I mean, this is that it's a very valid question.
Yeah. Do you feel nervous? I do. I feel nervous most of the time. And for me, it's because I respect public speaking. And I feel like the day I feel, usually I get confident as I create a rapport. If I'm talking about something very sad, I see people's faces becoming sad. If I'm talking about something quite hilarious and people are laughing, it really allows me to get into it. So actually, I gain my confidence as I create the rapport because I don't want to be like, we've got that uncle that can speak anywhere but boring everyone and not saying anything relevant. So I sometimes being scared forces you to really think about what you're saying and really have a meaningful talk.
Okay, I think we've got time for one question. Communication. Communication one is a concept I always struggle with, especially when chatting to those starting out in the business analysis profession. If your personality is that of an introvert and don't see public speaking as a skill to have, you are indirectly excluded from a successful BA career. And I see it today still. Some colleagues just don't want to speak in bigger forums. Yeah, it's not easy to speak.
Yeah, I always say when I do these trainings, I always say that any person who wishes to become a significant leader or significant person in the society, I'm talking now prominent and influential, unfortunately, you must be able to persuade people, be able to address people, unless if you want to be a quiet investor that is unknown somewhere. But if you really want to become someone in corporate spaces, you have to speak, and you have to have that commanding presence when you deliver your message. So it's one of those things that you don't have to obviously every time be the one who's speaking, but you must have the ability to stand up and really address people and be heard. And you don't have to get it right the first time. Sometimes do it afraid, do it shaking. You will just realize, oh, I did this wrong. I was speaking too fast. I need to slow down. It was Roosevelt who said the man that counts is the one who's in the arena, who's making mistakes, who's covered with dust, who's at least trying, than the man who's outside looking at the one who's trying, pointing errors. So I'll encourage continuous improvement. It's really a lifelong journey, in my view.
How often do you rehearse before having to do a presentation?
Well, usually I'll rehearse at home. I'll record the speech, put it on Bluetooth, and listen to it on my way to work to ensure that I don't forget the lines, because I usually don't speak using notes because I want to engage the people I'm speaking to. So, yeah, so speaking, practicing, I'll practice maybe 3 times or 4 times before giving a speech. And if possible, I'll go to a speaking club, try the speech out, get some feedback, what to improve. But yeah, and just Liana, um, I see we're running out of time. And if you want to know the power preparation, go to comedy clubs. You'll see big guys. They come there to test their jokes, and if the joke is not funny, then they will remind you that you did not pay because it's an open night, which I find quite hilarious, by the way. So, but they go there and they practice, and that shows you how much practice is important. And then sometimes they don't get it right. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you don't laugh and you complain, but your jokes were not funny. Then they say, but it's an open night. You did not pay. Remember how much you paid at the door. And then you're like, okay, it's fine. I'll come to the paid event. But everyone is practicing. Everyone, even the best players, I made an example with the slide there. Some players really don't get it right the first time. They have bad days. So it happens. But the most important thing, raise your hand, be a fire warden at work, do something that will force you to say something in front of people. And over time you'll get it right. It's like a kid who learns how to walk. Isn't it that they fall many times? Imagine if they said, I'm not going to do this walking thing, it's so tiring and it's difficult, I'm just going to crawl for the rest of my lives, for rest of my life. And that's what we do as adults. When things are tough, we're like, no, I'm no longer doing this thing. It's tough, people are laughing at me. But that's not how we need to look at life. We just need to keep showing up, keep trying, get the feedback, and improve.
Well, like you said, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Before I hand quickly back to Fatu, just if you guys will please fill in the feedback form for us, um, we would appreciate it. And also, communication will go out tomorrow. We're changing to the tools and techniques frequency from twice a month to once a month, and there's very good reason for it. So the communication will go out tomorrow. Fatu, can I hand back to you, please? And Bonnie, thank you very much from my side.
Thanks, Liana. And thanks so much, Bonnie, for such a great presentation and the feedback to all the questions. And thanks everyone who participated and that attended this. Just please do note of the links that are being shared on the chat by the team, forms for feedback survey and our YouTube channel as well. If you want to recap on any of our tools and techniques, this one and any in the past and future, and also kindly take note of the announcement that Liana just made that we are indeed updating our cadence to once a month on the third week of the month, and we will send out official communication tomorrow. Yeah, thank you all. This has been such a great session tonight as usual. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.